Your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix on women's MMA with Got You Covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, now, you are tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I'm your host, Tate, and I have somebody else with me as well. Who do I have with me?
I'm your co-host, Sarah.
We have Sarah with me today.
How you doing tonight, Tate?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So, we had a pretty fun weekend of fights this weekend.
We did.
We had Invicta 22, and I gotta say, spectacular card. It seems like Invicta is like show after show is getting better and better and better. What did you think of the card so far?
I thought it was a great card. You initially had some doubts about this card, right?
Well, I thought it was. I was kind of thinking it was going to be a little top heavy. So I was thinking like, you know, I don't know what I was kind of expecting out of the undercards, and I knew the co-main event and the main event would be really, you know, spectacular fights, but I wasn't really that sure about, you know, the early fights. And then when we started watching weigh-ins, and some of the, you know, we lost a couple of fights here and there. Some people didn't make weight. I definitely did have my doubts. So, you know, when you started seeing some of the weigh-ins, did it kind of make you a little leery as well?
It just seemed like the lineup kept changing a lot, and I don't know if that was just my perception of it, or if it's. I mean, it seemed like from when we first started looking at the lineup to the actual fight time when it started, it seemed like there were a lot of changes. And maybe there weren't as many as I think, but it felt like there were a lot.
Now, I can understand where you're coming from with that, but just because, you know, fights were scheduled as the strawweight, it was going to be kind of a card featuring a lot of the strawweights, but then it kind of changed because of a few fights being, you know, at catch weights. Fights got canceled. So it just kind of threw things. Initially, I thought it was going to throw things off. But, man, I was definitely wrong. That fight, I mean, that card in general, I don't think there was a boring fight from start to finish. I mean, that fight, the card just kept me engaged. I thought it may even be the best Invicta event I'd seen, maybe ever. Matter of fact, I would go as far as to say the last two Invicta events have just been, just have really kicked it up a lot.
So you want to talk about the fights now?
You want to talk? Wow, you're ready to jump into this right away.
Well, no, I mean, we don't have to. We can make some more small talk.
What do you want to small talk about then?
I don't know. How was your weekend?
My weekend consisted of just watching fights. And I also played around with, I had ordered this new box called the Tick Box. And so I kind of played around with that a lot. It's like a little box that'll give you the ability to watch almost any television program anywhere in the world. So I'm a huge, huge fanatic when it comes to watching BBC and Australian television.
Really?
Which is, you know, kind of a weird thing. But so I ended up getting the Tick Box, and I was playing around with that. So I spent most of Saturday during the day working on that, all the way up till it came time to watch Invicta. So that was a big part of my day. And then Sunday was more playing around with the tick box and figuring out how to work it and watching videos and finding all these crazy stuff that I wouldn't be able to watch without, watching, because I don't have, all the BBC channels or all the Australian channels. So that's kind of what I did.
So Invicta and Australian TV, that was pretty much your weekend.
That sounds like a freaking awesome combination.
All right. Okay,
so we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to dive right into that Invicta 22 event where Tanya Evinger came back and established that she never left. Her fight against Yana Kunitskaya. So when we come back, we'll talk about that. We'll talk on some other Invicta news that was announced right before Invicta FC dealing with Cyborg or Cris Cyborg. Stay tuned, hang in there, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we're back, and you are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. And what are we going to cover first?
So the first thing we're going to talk about is that main event, and that was Tanya Evinger versus Yana Kunitskaya, take 2, because, of course, the first time it was contested, and Tanya ended up getting her title back. So round 2 to see if it was a fluke, if it was meant to be, So what did you think of that fight?
Okay, before we start, the first victory, this was, one of those situations where Tanya had the title taken from her because of referee interference. She had her foot on Yana's head, and the referee made her move, which made her move back into position.
And he said that wasn't allowed, but that's not the case, right?
No, it was totally legal. It was you are allowed to step on someone's head. You just could not make it a blow. So if she would have tried stomping on her head or kicking her in the head while she was down, then it would have been an illegal move. But the referee actually made her move, which then made her move into step. Once you stepped over the head, it made it so that arm bar kind of locked in. Tanya tapped, and it was a quick night in which she had lost the title. But the big victory is when you appeal a referee's decision, it is never, ever overturned. I've never seen it overturned. And so that was the first win of this, fight, was the fact that Tanya actually earned, a no contest in which she got her title back. That was a huge victory, and I think, and that's what kind of started the kind of the rivalry between Yana and Tanya, because a lot of people give Tanya a bad name, and they talk about how she's this, she kind of has a kind of bad mouth, or but Tanya was nothing but the consummate professional. When she lost, even though she thought, she had gotten ripped off, she kept things on a very high note by just congratulating her and, shaking her hand and moved on. It didn't get ugly between those two until once the decision was made, and then you start seeing a few things on Twitter where Yana wasn't happy about it. And you know what? I can defend Yana by saying I understand. She's done the impossible. She's come over to her first trip to the United States, and she's fighting arguably one of the greatest, and I will repeat that again, one of the greatest bantamweight fighters in history. And there's a lot of fans who will who watches UFC and listen to this show will say, what are you talking about? I'm saying just that. Tanya Evinger is one of the true greats of all time. As a matter of fact, I'd put her, as far as the bantamweight division goes, she's one of the top 3 of all time. And I'm saying that especially after her overcoming this situation. But and we'll talk about that a little later on. But, you know, so you go into this event and you go into the weigh-in, and you can kind of tell how, as the fight is building the day before, how it's starting to come out, how there's a bit of a rivalry, and you listen to the interview, and Yana is like, she's just not a nice person.
I think what she said was she's a horrible person.
Was it a horrible person?
That was how it was translated. No, she was speaking English. She used the word horrible. Yeah.
So she's a horrible person.
She is a horrible person.
And you know what? If you don't follow Tanya, you can I see how people could get that wrong impression on Tanya. But when if you follow Tanya's career and you listen to Tanya, I think Tanya has been always open to fighting whomever, whenever. And I think she always she shows a lot of respect to fighters, but she has a lot of confidence in herself. And when you look at a career that she's had, she's earned that confidence. You know, she started out kind of rough when she first started her career with a few different losses, but you know, over the last 10 years, I will put her I'll put her up against anyone in that bantamweight division. There's no one that I'm going to tell you just say they're going to blow Tanya out, or that Tanya can't compete with them. Tanya can compete with any bantamweight in the UFC, in Bellator, I don't care where they're at. She can compete with any women's bantamweight fighter on the roster, past or present. That's just my opinion. So let's get to the fight. That fight was awesome. First, you know, it was a lot. I mean, Tanya coming to the ring, I was super excited about that. She seemed super calm and ready to go. What was your take when you started watching the fight?
It was fascinating to watch them, first of all, come into the ring, especially Yana. Yana has almost zero expression when she comes into the ring. She is, I think one of the commentators said something about her just being like ice, you know, just her face is impassive. People were booing her, and she came in, and it was like she could have been alone in that room, in that octagon. She just was completely impassive. And then, like you said, Tanya came in, she seemed calm, she seemed ready. So just watching them come in, the two of them both seemed like they were ready and just ready to go at it.
You know, I listened to an interview after the fight, and I listened to Tanya talk about how she was the most relaxed she had been for any of her fights. She wasn't stressed out, or she wasn't worried at all. She didn't feel like she had lost the title. More or less like she felt like, you know, a lot of times when you're sparring at the gym, you know, someone will put you in their arm bar or something, you just kind of tap out, but, you know, it's not really real. And kind of that's the way Tanya felt in her interview. She was talking about that, and she was just saying, like, you know, after watching Yana and actually being in the ring with her, she didn't think Yana had a shot, where she didn't think Yana could knock her out, and she knew Yana couldn't handle her on the ground. And she kind of fought just that way. When the fight started, Tanya took her to the ground pretty early, and she took her to and she kept her to the ground, working a lot of ground and pound, just trying to keeping the fight under control. The thing about this fight that I thought was amazing is,
I think you're gonna say what I was just gonna say.
I'll let you say it then.
Well, about Yana, and I was really impressed with her ground game. I mean, I expected, they talk about her striking ability, but the fact that 90% of this fight, it seems like, took place on the ground, and she completely held her own.
You know what? I mean, I think Tanya is one of the best wrestlers in women's mixed martial arts, and Yana held her own. A couple of times, I was really worried that Tanya was in trouble. She had her, she faced the arm bar attempt. She faced a toe hook. A toe lock. She tried submission. Anna tried submission after submission after submission. The one thing I'll tell you about Tanya, that is, she was one calm, cool customer in that ring.
And yet, after the fight, she said a couple of times that she felt like she didn't do well. Like, she could have done a lot better. Like, I think she even said she fought like crap, didn't she?
Yeah, I don't think she was happy with her performance as a whole. The situation is that I once again, on another interview, she talked about how she traditionally keeps a very, very strict diet right before the fight, and she went out with some friends, and they decided to go to get Mexican food, and she didn't want to eat anything, but they told her, just eat some beans or eat the rice and beans. It's you need to keep your carbs up anyway. And she ate the rice and beans, and I guess it came back to bite her in the butt a little bit. No
Hopefully
pun intended.
not literally.
Yeah, so she was, from everything I understand, she was a little under the weather.
Okay.
But it didn't matter. When she was in that ring and Yana was putting on the arm bar, and then she tried so many different submissions. It was hard to keep up with how many submissions. I'd never seen anyone attempt so many submission holds. And most people, when they get in a submission hold, they kind of panic, or they stop their game plan and they instantly just kind of freak out and try like crazy to get out of it. Tanya was calm. Like, at no point, even though I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, this is locked. It's locked in there tight. Tanya was just cool and calm. And I mean, did you see that as well?
I did. I think I feel like they both were. It was like watching. I can't even come up with a good metaphor off the top of my head, but it just seemed like they were both really focused, really calm, really in the moment. There wasn't a lot of sort of those panic moves where you're trying to, like you said, you're kind of freaking out. No, they just seemed like they were calculating what they were doing, figuring out what they should do in response to what the other fighter was doing.
Yeah, no, I thought they both handled themselves really well. Tanya's wrestling game is just phenomenal. She can make a fight dirty, and that's been her game plan. I have yet to see anyone stop her from making that fight dirty, but she took her down. The ground and pound was there, and then Tanya eventually takes her back, puts in the rear naked choke, and honest tapping. And I mean, but it was a really impressive fight. It was a lot of people who say Tanya's not fun to watch this fight. Tanya's a lot of fun to watch. I don't understand why someone would even say that Tanya's not fun, because I think her fights are some of the most intriguing fights you can find on the Invicta rosters. No, she doesn't go in guns a-blazing like Ronda Rousey or Cris Cyborg. She's different than those guys. As a matter of fact, I don't know anyone that actually fights quite like Tanya. she's found a special niche that makes her different. And no one's been able to stop her for almost a decade. I mean, she's been rolling strong, and I was super impressed.
I think this fight might have even helped her a little bit. I mean, I don't think she's a boring fighter. I've never thought she was a boring fighter, but I think that the fact that it was contested, she did get her title back. That Yana had it for 13 days, and then the decision was overturned, and she got it back. I think that made her more popular a little bit. I agree. Just the fact that people were booing Yana when she came in, they were chanting Tanya's name. You don't get that a lot with Tanya, but you really saw it in this fight.
No, you don't. It was kind of like addition by subtraction, because
no one said there'd be math.
Because of the fact that Tanya was, in my opinion, and in the Athletic Commission's opinion, was wrongfully lost her title, and it was given back. I feel like she gained more fans. I think people started to realize, like, wait a minute, who is this Tanya Evinger fighter? Why is so many people upset about Tanya losing? Why is it a big deal? I think she gained a lot more fighters, and I also think because of the loss and because of the increased interest in this fight, it may open a door for her to finally fight in the UFC. And I
love that. You have been campaigning for that forever.
I have been campaigning for Tanya Evinger to be in the UFC for a long time. And I remember when Ronda was coming back, and they were talking about Ronda should take a tune-up fight. And they said, some people mentioned Tanya Evinger as Ronda's tune-up fight.
Oh, dear.
And I was like, don't you dare. I'm like, I think people would have been really shocked, because I think Tanya can compete with anyone. And I'm saying Ronda, I'm saying Amanda Nunes. And no disrespect to those guys, because I think those guys, I mean, I'm a huge fan of both. I think they're great, but I think Tanya can compete with any of them. And I'm not saying she'll win or I don't know. I would have to dive into and look into it a little bit deeper, but she has just as good a chance of beating the top people in the UFC I give her a better chance than almost anyone else when you're starting to take on some of the top fighters in the UFC.
And on that note, you said maybe it'll open the door. It doesn't sound, from what Tanya said at the post-fight interview in the Octagon, that she's thinking that way. I mean, I can't, I don't know her and I can't read her mind, but she did say, the woman asked what's next, and she said, well, a couple more fights, and then, it kind of sounded like she was leaning a little bit toward retirement. Do you think that's the case, or was she? I don't know. I didn't know quite what to make of her comments.
I get the same feeling that, and I was definitely hanging on every word, but sometimes you say things, or you're about to say things in the heat of the moment right after a fight. Because when I started listening to some of the other interviews afterwards, Tanya was not talking or thinking about retiring whatsoever. She was, she was just saying she doesn't care who she fights next. She's willing to fight anybody. I would have liked to have seen her make another case for fighting someone in the UFC. I would really, really would have loved to see her call somebody out, kind of the way Megan Anderson called out for the winner of Germaine de Randamie and Holly Holm. I thought that was the way to go. But Tanya has been so respectful and to Invicta that she's stayed very close to the vest. So, is there anything else about this fight you want to talk about or cover before?
I think we covered pretty much most of what I had to cover.
Pretty
much all of what I had to cover, not much.
I mean, once again, just an amazing, amazing fight. I hung on every second of it. But there was a little bit of news right before this fight. Do you want to talk about what that was?
Sure. So the news was about Cris Cyborg, who has said that she is now vacating that Invicta title. So that moved Megan Anderson from interim champ to the... Oh, I just blanked on the phrase. She's not the interim champ. Now she's the...
Undisputed champion.
Undisputed, thank you. The undisputed champ. So Cris Cyborg is vacating her title, and she has called out Germaine de Randamie for a fight. What do you think about that possibility?
Well, that was, I mean, it was just a matter of time before she was going to vacate that the Invicta title anyway. Invicta's in a great place because they had an interim champion who is just amazing, and Megan Anderson. The only problem with Megan Anderson is that she is going to, I think she's going to get called up to the UFC very, very soon.
But she's another one you've been campaigning for, so that should make you happy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of a double-edged sword because...
I make no bones about it. My two favorite Invicta fighters, and I love the Invicta roster as a whole, but I look at Megan and I say, Megan is the future of the featherweight division. And I look at Tanya Evinger as the champ or the contender who hasn't had a fair shot yet, who deserves a shot to show that she is one of the best fighters in all of the bantamweight division. So Megan Anderson and Tanya Evinger, I am all on board, both of them coming to the UFC, because I think they can compete with anyone on the roster. So, but back to Cris Cyborg. The minute that the whole situation that she got cleared and got that exemption from USADA, I knew she was going to make a move for that title. Because I mean, the title was created for her, and then the USADA situation happened, and she couldn't really, fight for the initial title.
So what do you think about that USADA decision? Because new podcast, we haven't talked about that, obviously, since we can't go back in time and create a podcast to talk about that. What do you think about that decision?
I don't want you to ask me that question.
I take it back then.
I don't know. I love Cris Cyborg. I just wasn't a big fan of them making that exemption for her.
It feels like a slippery slope.
That's exactly where's that line going to be drawn at,
right?
And so it's a very touchy one, and I think so everyone's going to get the same exemption. I think it's either all or nothing, and I think it was definitely a very slippery slope. So, as a whole, wasn't a big fan of it.
Okay, we'll move on.
Okay.
You seem very uncomfortable.
I was so tiptoeing around that conversation. I'm like, oh no, you didn't just ask me that question. Now, as far as you're putting Germaine de Randamie, one of the most decorated fighters as far as Muay Thai and outside of mixed martial arts in history, against Cris Cyborg. I'm looking forward to this fight. I cannot wait. I don't think they've announced a date yet, have they?
Well, they haven't, and de Randamie had stated after her last fight with Holly Holm that she did injure her hand, and so she was waiting to see if she had to have surgery. So I think that may be a factor. I'm not sure if she's announced one way or the other about her hand, but obviously if she's going to have surgery, that fight would have to be postponed.
The question I look at that division as there's a 3-way dance there. If you mix in Holly, there's 4-way, but it's Megan Anderson, Cris Cyborg, Germaine de Randamie. If Germaine actually goes through, if the surgery holds her up and she can't fight a while, will Cyborg just wait on the sidelines and not fight? Or will Cyborg fight Megan, or will she fight Holly Holm? Both of those would be very dangerous fights right when you have, a title shot sitting there. So I don't quite know what's going to happen there. I do like the fact that with Megan getting the Invicta title outright, it makes it so Megan can get a couple more fights, because I don't quite think Megan is quite ready for Cris Cyborg right now, but she's gonna be, and I think she needs about 2 to 3 more fights. And with everything the way things are looking, where if they wait and have a Germaine de Randamie Cris Cyborg fight, that gives Megan that total opportunity to get in 2 to 3 more fights so that she's ready, and that would be a blockbuster fight. As far as who do I think will win between Cyborg and Germaine de Randamie, I think the only fighter in the UFC that is built to give Cris Cyborg trouble was Germaine, followed by Holly. But I would not put a penny against Cris Cyborg. I would take Cyborg to win against either one.
All right. You know what? I think we should take a break.
I think you're right.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to talk about a few of the other fights that were on the Invicta 22 card. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Okay, and we're back, and we were just talking about the Tanya Evinger versus Yana Kunitskaya fight, in which Tanya Evinger won. We touched on a little bit about the fact that Cris Cyborg had vacated her Invicta title, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about that Invicta FC 22 card.
Yes. So let's start off with strawweight division. Ayaka Hamasaki versus Livia Renata Souza. This was somewhat unexpected. It was not quite the fight that I was expecting. How about you?
Okay, so we're talking about the co-main event on this card. And this was the fight that I thought, man, this fight is going to have fireworks. I'm thinking, like, okay, this is going to be a wire-to-wire battle. Nope, not at all. I was super excited about watching Hamasaki, put on a good performance and really showcase herself and establish herself as a strawweight contender, with a tough fight, but I thought something that she would win. Nope, not at all.
This was uncomfortable for me to watch because at the end, I kept yelling that it needed to end. There were so many strikes after she fell, and then I was like, I was trying to make the ref hear me through the TV screen to stop the fight because Hamasaki was just lying there.
Souza landed one of the best shots, and Hamasaki is the atomweight champion on Invicta, but Souza landed a shot that just put her to sleep. And I was so impressed by her. She applied pressure, and when she landed that shot, she went down. Hamasaki went down, and then you're right. I counted 10, 11 shots where it should have been just one shot and done, but the referee just let it go, and it was one shot after the next one after the next one. I think it was like 10 shots that I counted before the referee stepped in. But I tell you what, with the fact that Angela Hill has vacated the strawweight title, and Souza was the former strawweight champion, in which she lost the title to Angela Hill. It's just, matter of fact, don't even have her fight anybody. Just give her the belt. She's ready. Matter of fact, I got it in the mail. Just give her the belt. That's how impressive she was. She knocked out the atomweight champion like she was not even a contender. With that performance, how can you not make her, the new champ? I'm looking forward to seeing who they put together, but she's fighting for that title. She's getting her title back.
Oh, yeah. I think she would have agreed with your assessment of just give me the belt. She didn't say that, of course, because she was much more tactful, but she, you could tell she was like, hi, I'm back. Hello.
Listen, you should have went down to the post office. Should have got you a couple of stamps because the belt's kind of heavy.
A couple of stamps.
Got you
Have you been to the post office lately?
Get you a couple of stamps and just stick them on the belt and ship it.
They say you can ship anything. You can ship a potato. You can ship that belt.
Don't the post office have those boxes where if it fits in there,
it ships.
Stick that darn belt in there and put it in there. Head toward Brazil or wherever she lives now, and just deliver it. And just give her the title. I just don't even see a reason to even watch it.
Well, on that note.
Yeah, I'm being serious.
I know you are.
I was impressed by her before. It's like she found a different gear. That's not the woman that lost to Angela Hill. Livia Souza, she didn't. That woman that won this weekend did not fight Angela Hill. She was in training somewhere else as her twin fought Angela Hill. Her twin was the former champion. This is a new contender. And I'm joking about her being a twin, but she was that impressive. She applied pressure, nonstop pressure, cut the ring off, and dropped her. And the question I have is, Hamasaki, what do you do? You just watch your atomweight champion get knocked out. Viciously knocked out. What do you do next with her? I think if I'm Hamasaki, I'm taking time off. You don't come back too fast. What are the big mistakes when you get knocked out like that? Especially with the fact that she's already the champ. You want to jump back in the ring and show that it was a fluke situation. That's not the norm. That would be a bad decision on Hamasaki's side, and I hope her camp takes good care of her and just say, you know what, take some time.
She needs time to heal.
Yes, because a lot of fighters, you feel. I mean, I've fought. I'm not on this level, but if you get nailed, you feel better the next day a lot of times. If not, within the next week, you feel better. You feel like you could take on the world, within a few days. You get back into training. I don't think if I was, I wouldn't do any sparring. I would train, but as far as jumping back in the ring right away, I would not do that. But man, Livia Souza just really put on just an amazing performance. She goes to 10-1 now as a record, and Hamasaki goes to 14-2. That was Hamasaki's only her second loss. That's how impressive Hamasaki has been over the years. That was only her second loss of her career, but it was in spectacular fashion. So my hats off. Cannot wait to see Livia Souza fight again. I will be in the front row, eyes wide open.
All right, so let's move on to a fight that wasn't quite so decisive. It was a split decision, and that was also the strawweight division. That was DeAnna Bennet versus Jodie Esquibel.
Now, that was a fight. That was a good fight. Man, when I was watching, first off, I'm going to talk about Jodie. I thought Jodie came in the best shape of her career. She looked like someone who was ready to start contending again, and so it was definitely, I thought, this is one of those. This is that next step of getting her to starting to contend again for the title. Esquibel came in the first round, and she got a huge takedown on Bennet. And it was a good fight. The last two rounds came in, I thought, super close. This fight literally could go either way, but in the end, I think the right person won. I look forward to seeing both of these fighters. Bennet drops to 8-3. Jodie goes to 6-2. I look forward to seeing where these guys go next. Also, with the fact there was one downside of this fight, though. There's one thing I didn't like about it, is the fact that it was at a catch weight. This was supposed to be a straw weight battle, and it had to be done at a catch weight. And so that was kind of a bit of a disappointment. But both of these fighters are really early up and coming, especially, and I'm really happy for the fact that Jodie won. Jodie was coming off of a loss to Alexa Grasso, and Alexa Grasso is a really tough fighter. She's now in the UFC, so it shows that Jodie has the ability. If she can get in the ring and have a tough loss with Alexa Grasso, she can definitely contend in Invicta. So that was a good fight. So I was excited about that, and it was fun to watch. What do we have next?
What we have next is a fight that didn't happen, and that was the Jinyu Fry fight. Jinyu Fry versus Janessa Morandin, and I'm not sure I'm saying that right. I apologize. This is why when the weigh-in happened, the card kind of lost a little luster to me initially, because it made up. Once the fight started, any shine that was taken off of it was buffed out and polished up, and it was looking good. But I was so looking forward to seeing Jinyu Fry fight, and then because of not being able to, because of the big weight difference, the fight had to be canceled. So that was a little disappointing. Looking forward to seeing. I don't know if they're going to reschedule that fight again, but would love to see that fight on the next Invicta card. Okay. And then we have Amber Brown versus Ashley Cummins, and that was at the atomweight. Now there's another fight. That was once again a really great fight.
it really, two fighters that, are just tough. I mean, when I look at Amber Brown is a tough, gritty fighter, and Ashley just really, really just stepped up her game.
That fight started off so fast. It just felt like they were just going at it. I wasn't sure they were going to be able to make it through all of their rounds because they were so fast at the beginning.
I agree with you. And this is one of those fights where when you look at it on paper and you say, okay, Ashley Brown, she's a tough fighter. She's always tough, but she's coming off of 2 losses. And then you look at Ashley Cummins and, and you look at her, she had a 1 win after 3 losses, and and it was her first time fighting at the 105 weight. I tell you what, she needs the tattoo on her forehead, 105. She is an atom weight.
That seems extreme.
Maybe a little extreme. What about a little tiny tattoo right about the hairline or something like that? Just enough that...
Okay, maybe in the hair you could cover it up.
Like
but
a micro
on your
tattoo.
Forehead?
Okay, maybe that's a little extreme. But I tell you what was extreme was her fighting skill. She looked fantastic at
Nice
this.
segue.
Thank you very much. I practiced that one.
Thanks.
No. Man, she looked so good at this weight. She's going to be able to really start contending. I think she's an up and comer in the Invicta, atom weight class, and if she keeps fighting like this, she will contend for the title. Amber Brown put up one of the best fights she's put up in a long time, and both these guys look fantastic. But Ashley Cummins, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens as she starts making her march through the atomweight division, because anyone that signs with her is going to have their hands full. And I tell you that, good luck, guys. Okay, so with that, we have a few more fights to cover on this card. We're gonna take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to cover, I think there's like 3 or 4 more fights on this card. Stay tuned.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Okay, so we just got done finishing talking about some of the co-main event and a couple of other fights that was on that Invicta FC 22 card. We talked about how Livia Souza KO'd Hamasaki by spectacular fashion. We talked about how Jodie Esquibel and how she came in really great shape, and she really put on a really great show in a very tough fight with Bennet, where she won a split decision. And then we talked about the brand new, soon-to-be star in the atomweight division, where Ashley Cummins came out and put on a really great show. So we just talked about those. So, Miss Sarah, what else do we have on the docket?
We've got a few more fights to cover. The first one we're going to talk about is Sunna Davidsdottir versus Mallory Martin. They both came in at 1-0, so there's kind of unknown, but really another really good fight. Another fight that started out just fast paced and hard to tell for me as I was watching it. Hard to tell who was winning at any given moment. It felt like it really could have gone either way.
It was a fantastic fight. And, looking at Davidsdottir, she started out really strong. Early in the fight, she rocked Martin. But then, Martin rocked her a couple times later in the fight. This was a seesaw battle back and forth. I personally had it as a controversial decision because I actually had Martin winning 2-1. I gave the first round to Davidsdottir, which is I do like that last name. It's like Sunna.
That's an awesome last name.
Davidsdottir. It's like, hey, where's Tate's daughter?
Well, if she lived in Iceland, that could be a possibility.
So I did like the name, but Davidsdottir is she came in, and you could tell she took this fight serious. Her conditioning was on point. This lady has potential. I think both of these ladies have an impact. Will have an impact in the Invicta FC ranks. It was their. Both fighters came in 1-0, but these fighters are well skilled. I was shocked that the judge gave round 2 to Davidsdottir because
they all did, because it was a unanimous decision.
Yes,
so
I was really shocked. I truly thought Martin won round 2, and I thought clearly she won round 3. So, like I said, I had it 2 rounds to 1, but I'm looking forward to seeing these ladies because both of them. This will not be the last time you see them contending. Because both are very high level skill. Okay, what's next?
Well, I was just going to say, this is why I'm not a judge, because when it's this close, when it goes back and forth like this, I personally would just want to call everything a draw. I'd be like, you guys fought so well. This is why I'm not a judge.
I would hate your guts.
I know you would. Everyone would hate my guts. This is why no one will ever ask me to judge anything, because I would be like, oh, you guys are awesome. I love you all.
Nope,
Participation trophies for everyone.
Oh, I'm throwing you out of the studio when you say participation trophies.
Please don't throw me out of the studio. I'll move on. Okay.
Real quick, though, with this fight, who did you think won?
I actually did think Davidsdottir won.
Oh, so you did?
I did.
Okay. So,
no,
it was a close fight. I didn't think round 2 was close. They were close, but I thought there was a clear winner in round 2, and it was Martin. And then I thought it was a clear winner in round 3, and I thought it was Martin. So I was really shocked that it happened. But that's one of those things about sitting in your living room watching the fight instead of going, which I was so tempted to go to this one. I really wanted to go to this one, but because of other obligations, I was not able to go to it. So, I ended up watching it, and I really regret that. Definitely gonna make changes in which we're gonna the next Invicta event I expect to be at.
But you won't let me go because I say things like participation trophies, huh?
Yeah, it'd be.
I know.
Rear naked choke.
I'll stay here. It's okay.
All right, what's next?
So next we have another fight where both fighters came in at 1-0. That's Cal Holliday and Miranda Maverick, and I didn't really know much about either of these fighters, but this was kind of an unexpected fight. I didn't quite know what to expect going in, but I was impressed.
You know what? I didn't know much about either one of these fighters as well, but when you start watching it, these ladies really, it was nonstop action, and Maverick just put the pressure on. She put pressure on. She put that arm bar on, and it was strong. And this fight was, it was over. It was I was really impressed, As a matter of fact, initially, I thought Holliday was the one that was looking the best, and then that armbar happened, and Holliday. I mean, Holliday had a big slam. She dropped Maverick when she had that armbar, and she spiked her on her head. I mean, her head bounced off the canvas when she had that armbar on. It didn't matter. Maverick had that bad boy locked in.
Yeah, that whole. Yeah, I cringed at that point.
Guys, it's too bad this isn't on air because on televised, because Sarah has a look about the armbar laying locked in, and she's just cringing because no matter Holliday tried to stack, she couldn't do it. She spiked her. That armbar just stayed, and she just kept it going. She kept it on, and she got the win. It was impressive. Once again, you have two 1-0 fighters with a lot of high skill, and definitely looking forward to seeing both of these guys as well, because I think these guys are like the future of the Invicta roster here. So
and Maverick's only 19, so
yeah,
I mean,
and that's the other thing
thing
about Maverick is the fact that she's only 19. I always think about her and Angela Lee as the two 19-year-old fighters who have a huge upside. I mean, you could look at Maverick and say she has 15 to 18 years of fighting still in her if she really applied herself, and she's already fighting at one of the highest levels, and she's winning. So definitely looking forward to seeing more of her. And Holliday as well.
Can I make a really random comment?
Yes.
You're not going to throw me out again, are you? You make no promises.
No.
Their entrance music was wrong. Holliday came in to a song from Top Gun. It was awesome. But then you've got Miranda Maverick. I mean, come on.
I'm going to ignore everything you just said.
Wow. Fine. I'll just move on then to the last fight we're going to talk about.
What's next? We're going to be talking about their outfits didn't match.
I didn't say that. Wow.
Okay, maybe that was a little snarky on my side. Okay.
I wasn't being near. Okay. Moving on. We're moving on. Okay. Felicia Spencer. Oh, my goodness. Felicia Spencer and Madison McElhaney, 1-0, both of them.
Yes.
So all three of our last fights, everyone was 1-0. Well, now they're not, but, going in, they were all 1-0. So.
Yeah, and that was the nice thing about this card. You had three 1-0 fighters that were all very high-end fighters who put up fantastic shows. They didn't look like, they didn't know what they were doing. These guys were super competitive, ready to fight, in good condition, and they all performed well. Felicia Spencer, I saw her fight her first fight, and man, she looked great. And then again, this fight here, Felicia Spencer is just, she's a buzz. She just buzzed around that ring, and relentless power. I thought McElhaney was going to be the bigger, stronger fighter, but the pressure came from Spencer. Spencer has a bright future. She really, the knees, the kicks, she can do it all. The nice takedowns, just constant pressure, and McElhaney just wielded under the relentless pressure. I don't think she had ever been pressed quite like that. Plus, there was I think toward the end, her condition started to fail her a little bit. And when you have somebody that's a buzzsaw coming after you, you cannot afford to have conditioning issues, because I really felt like her conditioning started to fail her, and she paid for it.
All right. So that pretty much that covers the Invicta 22 fight card.
is it me? But it's like Invicta lately has just decided that each card we're raising the bar. Each card is getting better than the next one, and Shannon and that crew are putting on amazing shows. You look at that, and I'm still shocked at the arena that they're fighting in. That there's the small arena. I seem like there should be 10 times more people at these events because they're missing out, and I'm so happy that Invicta's on Fight Pass because they deserve to be showcased, and they don't disappoint. I can't remember the last time I was just kind of bored or disappointed in an Invicta card. So Invicta, keep up the good work. With that, I'm Tate.
And I'm Sarah.
Thank you for tuning in. We are the Golden State Media Concepts Women Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, and we'll see you at the next event. Have a good one.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.